Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another in our series of interviews for the Public Qur'an Campaign on My Chosen Verse. And today we have Lucy Bushill-Mathews, who works at the UK's National Zakat Foundation, a charity working towards a thriving, closer community in the UK. She is the Director of Operations there, responsible for finance and governance. Lucy is author of the book Welcome to Islam, A Convert's Tale, was a regular contributor to Emel, UK's Muslim lifestyle magazine, and has given 2 TEDx talks on faith. Lucy became a Muslim at Cambridge University nearly 30 years ago. So without any further ado, we'll pass it over to Lucy to tell us about her chosen verses.
Thank you so much. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said to his companions, "Is it difficult for any one of you to recite 1/3 of the Qur'an in one night?" And they said, "Who among us has the ability to do so, O Messenger of God?" And the Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "Surah Ikhlas is equal to 1/3 of the Qur'an." Surah Ikhlas begins, "In the name of God, Lord of mercy, giver of mercy. Say he is God, the one and only. God is self-sufficient. He doesn't beget, nor is he begotten. And there is no one like him."
So why did you choose this particular verse, surah?
Well, I chose the surah as its concepts were key in my journey to becoming Muslim. And I've also been reminded since then so many times of its universally simple yet really deep meaning. My journey started over 30 years ago as I wanted to better understand my own faith, at that time Christianity. I thought it would be strengthened if I also increased my understanding of other faiths. And as part of my learning, I read these verses. Say he is God, the one and only. I found it such a profound declaration. I learned that the Arabic ahad and wahid both have the same root letter origin. They both mean one. The word wahid is the Arabic word for number one. God is the only one who is deserving of being worshipped. He has no partner. And this was really important to me, given the way I was brought up with an understanding of the Trinity and that direct link that it has to partnering. And then there is the word ahad, which conveys the kind of oneness that we can't count. It stands for a singular, unique entity. It's unlimited by time, by space, by circumstance. And it was this kind of oneness that was important to me too. Not one God for me, one for you, not one for Christians, one for Jews, one for Muslims, just one for us all. And then there is Allahu Samad, God, the self-sufficient, the one who takes no nourishment, no food, no drink, and the one who doesn't sleep. Coming from a tradition which says God rested on the 7th day, I found this a bit of a wake-up call, excuse the pun, that God doesn't need to rest. And then the next verse says, he does not beget, nor is he begotten. This is so simple, and yet had been the source of so much confusion for me. Did he have a son? Throughout my childhood, I had been taught that he had. What was really going on with the Trinity? Vicars and priests had told me it's a mystery. But it seemed such an unnecessarily complicated one. Could it really be so simple? And then the surah ends, there is none like him. This echoes the first commandment, the one that I touched on in my Christian confirmation lessons. You shall worship no God but me. So this surah was really the culmination of a realization which had been building up over 2 years.
So what does this all mean for you today? How it works?
Well, I found the surah unifying across time and space, across all people from different communities. It was about one God, no partners, no children, no resting, one God for everyone. And at that particular point in my journey, the specific messengers weren't as relevant to me as the message itself. And that message was all about God. I didn't know anything then about God's 99 names. From what I understood, though, about him being all-powerful, I felt that I knew he would know my innermost thoughts. God would know that I knew. So there was no hiding for me. I had to be true to myself. So I took my Shahada alone one sleepless night. Except, of course, I wasn't alone. And very soon after, I came out and I declared it in my student room with broken Arabic, followed by rather more fluent English. amongst a small group of trusted friends. I was later reminded of its universally simple yet deep meaning. It was just a couple of years later. It came back to me when I was with my husband traveling on holiday in Syria. We spent many happy hours in sitting what were generally otherwise all-male coffee shops. Men who were more confident with their English often stopped playing cards and engaged us in conversation. Once, one man wanted to be certain that I was a proper Muslim. "Do you know Surah Ikhlas?" he quizzed me. I recited the short chapter for him in Arabic, adding the English translation in for good measure. "Say he is the one God, God the self-sufficient. He does not beget, nor is he begotten, and there is none like him." My newfound tea companion was triumphant. "You see, you don't know it," he said. He proceeded to translate it into English slowly to help me, to educate me. "Say he is one. He never dies. He does not have any babies. He has no mummy or daddy, and there is no one at all like him." I was young, in my early 20s. I thought it was worth arguing my corner, so I argued back. "That's what I said. I had said he doesn't beget, nor is he begotten." He couldn't see it was the same. He was adamant his was the right translation. Of course, we were both right, but it really brought it home to me. Keep it simple, and I must remind myself of the meaning.
Okay, so this was a while ago. What's happened since then?
I've seen so many times that unfortunately, it's all too easy to forget the meaning of what I'm saying. We complicate things. It's easy to focus on the small stuff. In a prayer course I'm attending on the meaning of prayer, a question that often crops up is, can we wipe over socks? Sometimes I find it helps to just come back to the basics and remind myself that in the end, whether I live in this country or abroad, whether someone refers to this great entity as God, Allah, something else entirely, whether someone declares themselves Christian, Muslim, something else, or indeed a nun, as in N-O-N-E, there is only one God for us all. God is the one. God is the only. And there is none like him.
Well, thank you very much for your reflections there. It's a surah which, of course, is an important one for every Muslim to it forms a very key part of their daily prayers and so on, because it is so important. We used this in the public Qur'an campaign on a bus advert campaign a while ago, and I spent quite a while thinking about how to translate it. So this issue about begotten or mummies and daddies and so on, I think this is obviously when he was doing that translation, was doing it off the top of his head, translating word for word what he was thinking.
And his Arabic was clearly far better than his English was far better than my Arabic would have been in terms of translating. So,
so I think the translation, if I remember, that we came up with for the bus was say God is one, God needs no one, never a father and never a son, beyond compare with anyone. So it just gets a bit of poetic repetition in it, and involves the phrase father and son, which I thought was important in the kind of context of kind of dealing with the Trinity and all of that, because this is it's a little bit of a license in a sense, because in Arabic it's a verb, so in the translation there is a noun. To say never a father, never a son. Technically, it's never fathering, never. It's like never, it's the begotten and begetting and being begotten are words that don't really roll off the tongue very easily, and we don't really use the verbs in that sense. We don't say you fathered or you've you've been born. It just doesn't really work in English. So I thought never a father, never a son. And there's also there's a lot of subtlety in that, because it's lam yulid or lam yulad, which lam means never, but normally implies the past, but in Arabic grammar can imply the future as well. And so this is you have to take all of these things into account. But it's a very profound verse, and the ikhlas, of course, we should mention is sort of purity or sincerity, which is the meaning of the name given to the surah most commonly. So yes, it's nice to hear some good reflections of how it had an important impact on your life. Debates about how to explain things can go on forever. I don't know, but it sounds, yeah. Thank you very much. If you have, yes, I don't think there's anything more I would like to add. If you're happy, if you have any other comments, you can say them. You're happy with
I'm happy to leave it there. Spoke from the heart. So
okay.
that is the one. That is the one that means so much. There are clearly so many verses that we could pick, but to sort of, I suppose, encapsulate that, to me, the really core message, that is the one for me.
Well, thank you very much. I will finish the recording now, and hopefully this will inspire people, and we'll have your video out soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much.